This is our 2017 Honda CR-V EXL all-wheel drive. Purchased it new in February of 2017. So now it's September of 2022. So had it for 5 years and 7 months, and it has 90,000 miles on it. So the ownership experience so far has been great. I've done all the preventive maintenance the whole life of the car and never had to do any other maintenance. Just typical things like replaced a battery twice. The second time it was fully warranted, so it didn't cost me anything the second time. And did some preventive maintenance things along the way. Changed the spark plugs. I've got a video on that on my channel. Had the serpentine belt changed. I think around 80,000 miles is when I changed the serpentine belt. So those are still under preventative maintenance. So never had a breakdown, never had anything that I needed fixed. And so it's just the reason I bought a CR-V. We just wanted something reliable and that I could own for a long time. And if I took care of it, figured it would last a long time, taking me to work every day. So that's exactly what it's been like. And now that it's 5.5 years old and has 90,000 miles on it, my plan is to just keep doing that, and hopefully it'll last 300,000 miles. That's my goal anyway. So changing the oil, changing the transmission fluid, changing your filters, changing your rear differential fluid if you have all-wheel drive, those kind of things are what it takes just to make it last a long time, and it's not hard to do. So that's really why I do the channel, just showing other people how they can save hundreds and even thousands of dollars by doing things like that themselves. So that's been my experience so far, and I hope it continues that way in the future. I hope the channel is helpful if you own a 2017 to 22 CR-V and even older and newer models. The 2023 that's coming out now is a new design, but I'm sure there'll be many similarities. I don't believe they've done any major changes to the engine or transmission unless you get the hybrid. So I'm sure these videos will still apply to the new models. So I hope that's helpful. Hello, I'm getting ready to do a 90,000 mile service on my 2017 Honda CR-V EXL with all-wheel drive. We're going to be rotating the tires, changing the engine oil. We're going to be changing the CVT transmission fluid, and we're going to be changing the engine air filter and the cabin air filter. Let's get started. So I have some things out here we're going to use. This is the CVT transmission fluid. I got 5 new quarts of the HCF-2 from my Honda dealer. This one barely has anything in it. We're going to use that first. We've got a transmission fluid funnel, and I've got my 3/8 inch breaker bar for that job, a pipe so I can get more torque. I've got a socket ready to go. And then first thing we'll do when we get it jacked up is we'll take off the front cover so we can access where the oil and transmission fluid are at. Got my oil ready. I've got my oil filter ready, some gloves. Got my crush washers for the transmission. The drain bolt uses an 18 millimeter crush washer, and the fill bolt or check bolt uses a 12 millimeter socket and a 10 millimeter crush washer. And then I've got what I need to take get my tires loose, my wheels loose. Before we jack it up, we'll jack it up. And then this is a torque wrench for the wheels at the end of the job. This is a torque wrench for the drain bolt and check bolt on the CVT fluid. And then I've got my impact gun that I may use just to save a little time on the tire rotation. Also have my cabin air filter ready right here, and my engine air filter ready right there. So the first thing we're going to do is loosen up the lug nuts on the wheels, and we're going to jack it up. And so let's get started. Okay, so I'll have links to products in the description, but I'll also call them out to you throughout the video. Actually, the first thing we're going to do is change the cabin air filter. This is the one I'm using. It's an EcoGuard. And so we're gonna change the cabin air filter. Okay, so our cabin air filter is in our glove compartment, so we've already emptied it out for this video. If you open your glove compartment, you have this little plastic piece here. It's called a soft close, so it allows the glove compartment to open softly. So I'm gonna push in on the glove compartment a little bit to take pressure off that, and then I'm just gonna push down. You'll hear it snap out of place. And then I'm gonna push in on both sides. That's gonna drop this out of the way completely. So if you can kind of position the camera right here, there's these two clips on the side right here, and it says up. So I just want to point out, because this is confusing, the up and up arrow is only for how this plastic piece goes in. It's not an airflow arrow. Our airflow is down. So the up is not an airflow arrow, it's just telling you how to put this plastic cover on. So right here is our air filter. So we're going to take out the old one. It's really very, very clean, but it's been in there 10,000 miles. So I'm going to change it. So we've got our new one here. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna look for my airflow down, and I'm gonna put that right in the front so we can see that. So now I've got that in there, airflow down. Take my plastic cover, arrow goes up. Get to where I can see what I'm doing. Okay. Alright, so that's snapped on. So now we'll again push in on the two sides of the glove compartment to squeeze that through. Then I'll pull this out, try to get my fingers in there, and push up, and it'll snap in, and we're done. That's all there is to it. Alright, so now we're going to change our engine air filter. I do this every 10,000 miles. This is the one that I bought off of Amazon. Arrived with the box a little damaged, but the air filter is fine inside. So we're going to start off. All we need for this job is one screwdriver, and these are, I can't remember exactly what they call this attachment, but you're going to loosen these 4 screws, but they don't actually come out. They're held in there, which is very nice because you don't lose them that way. But all you do is loosen them, and it allows the air box to come up, but you don't have to actually take them completely off. So it's just in a rectangle, and there's a screw on each edge, on each corner. Okay, I think we got them all loosened enough where you can just kind of tell when they're just turning, but they're not attached to anything. So we're gonna go ahead and take out our new filter. And what we want to pay attention to, just to make this job extremely quick, just pay attention to the orientation of the old filter, and we'll pop this right back in while we have the air box lifted up. So you just kind of lift it aside like that. We'll see how it's just like this. I always just set it down in whatever orientation it came out. You can tell how clean that is. But this is my engine air filter, so I just go ahead and change it every 10,000 miles. The air box is nice and clean, so I don't need to vacuum that out or anything. There's no debris in there. Set that one right back in like it was. Put that right back on, tighten the screws, and we're done. It's that simple. I don't do off-road driving, so that's probably why it's so clean. But it's easy enough to do every 10,000 miles. So we'll tighten these screws and we'll be done with that. They can just be snug, they don't have to be super tight. Okay, that's all there is to it. Okay, so we have the engine air filter and the cabin air filter changed already. So we're gonna jack the car up so we can change the oil, change the CVT transmission fluid, and rotate the tires. So one thing, when you have a lot of things to do, sometimes you just jack the car up to get started and you forget to loosen the lug nuts while it's on the ground. So you always want to make sure if you're rotating the tires, remember to loosen those while you have the weight of the car helping you out a little bit. So that's the first thing we're going to do. All right, so now that we've loosened the lug nuts, now we're gonna get our front and back jacked up so we can get started. Okay, we have the car jacked up on 4 jack stands, and in addition to the jack stands, I have one jack under the car from this way that's sort of a backup for these 2 front jacks, and then I have another jack in the back end that's a backup for the back 2 jacks. So you're trusting your life, so I always want to have more than one thing under there. So the first thing we have to do to access anything is take the plate off, the skid plate underneath of here. And to do that, I use a stubby Phillips head and a stubby regular screwdriver. And so I'm going to take that plate off right now. All right, so this is the metal cover we just took off. So this is how it sits up there. This is the side that faces up. So we had to roll underneath this way. So looking up at it on our back, we took this was a Phillips head. These 2 were Phillips heads. And then the rest of them were these regular flathead. And they're kind of strange where they have these teeth on them. And it's got a directional arrow, so you just turn it 1/4 of a turn and then you wiggle it out because those teeth hold it in. So that's how that comes off. Now we're just going to take off our oil filter, and then we're going to drain the oil. I've tried different oil filter wrenches, and the one that I find to be the easiest is this swivel gripper. 2 3/8 to 2 5/8 fits these filters perfectly. All right, so we got our old oil filter off. It's our new oil filter. Dip my glove in the new oil. We can lube up the seal. And the other oil is the oil is draining right now. So I'm going to put on our new filter while our oil continues to drain. Okay, since it's hard to video under the car while we're doing everything, I'm going to show you the location of your CVT drain bolt and your CVT check bolt. So let me show you that right now so you can tell where I'm at. So now coming under the car, just for reference, here is the, trying to find my oil filter right there. So oil filter is on the passenger side. So now I'm scanning back towards the middle of the vehicle. And now I'm on looking at the driver's side. And this is a CVT drain bolt. I've got it labeled on mine. CVT drain bolt. It takes a 3/8 inch socket, so the square part of a breaker bar, 3/8 inch. So that when we loosen that, that's where we will drain the CVT fluid. When we say a CVT check bolt, we call it a check bolt because it's how you check if it's full or not. So the drain bolt's at the bottom, and the check bolt then would be at the top. So it's gonna be this right here, this 12 millimeter socket. You can see my glove on that right here, 12 millimeter socket right here. So from now on in the video, if I reference the drain bolt, it's this big one with the 3/8 inch breaker bar, and then the check bolt is this top one. So in just a minute, we'll be breaking loose the check bolt to make sure we can break it loose. And then after I'm able to break it loose, I will break loose the drain bolt and we'll drain the CVT fluid after we're done with this oil change. Okay, we loosened the check bolt just to make sure we could loosen it, and then we broke free the drain bolt. And one thing I do with the 3/8 inch breaker bar, because they're so short and it takes a lot of torque to get those things loose, I have a piece of pipe that fits over that. This is only like 12 inches long or something, and so I slide it over the end of the breaker bar to give me more torque to break that free. And then once it's broken free, I get the drain pan under it and loosen it up, and it'll really shoot out quite a ways when you first take the drain bolt off. So this is the drain bolt, and I want to show it to you because this is one of the reasons you change your transmission fluid, and 30,000 miles is a lot, so I definitely wouldn't push it any farther than that. But you can see all this gunk on the black part. That's a magnet. So the gunk is like metal shavings that stick to it. So this is metal, and so keep in mind that when this had, I think, like, I don't know, 10,000 miles or something, I went ahead and did an initial fluid change just because of the break-in. So this one got changed at 10, and again at 30, and then 60, 90, which is where we're at now, is at 90,000. So that's not a lot over the course of 30,000 miles of driving to get that, but it does show you that it does wear a little bit. And so actually, the older your car gets, as long as you keep changing it, it's probably gonna be less and less each time. This is our crush washer. We're gonna get rid of this one because it's old. So we'll put a new crush washer on. So right now I'm gonna go get my new crush washer. Okay, so the crush washer for the drain bolt on our CVT is an 18 millimeter. So I'm gonna get one of those ready to go on that drain bolt. And then whenever our check bolt is ready, we're gonna have a 10 millimeter crush washer ready for it. So what I want to do now is, because we're changing the oil and the transmission fluid, this is my new one. You can kind of get your mind going on multiple things at once, and that can make us forget to do very important things. So as you're going to see in a little while, part of changing the CVT fluid, which stands for continuously variable transmission, you have to start the car when we start adding fluid. Well, that means we got to have oil in the engine. So lest we forget to add oil, let's go ahead and do that now. So this car takes 3.7 quarts of oil. I use this pitcher that I marked out just so I can get exact measurements. So we're going to do 2, and then we're going to do 1.7 after that. So I'll add 2 quarts, and then I'll add 1.7 quarts. I use a 0W20 I started using the Mobile One Extended Performance High Mileage when I hit 75,000 because I've taken care of this car since it was new. I'm sure I could have just stuck with the regular. I'll go get my funnel right over here. This is our, where we add it, there's our cap. It tells us that we're to use 0W20. You always want to stick with what your manufacturer tells you. They know best. So we'll start adding this. This is full synthetic and I change it every 5,000 miles. Now you may have noticed that I do buy the extended performance, which says on the bottle protects for 20,000 miles. The reason I don't push it is that this is a turbo engine and small engine, and just don't think it's a good idea to push turbos beyond 5,000. Just my personal opinion. So there's our 3.7. Definitely want oil in this engine when we start it up to check our transmission fluid level here in a few minutes. I'll kind of balance my picture there just to let it drain a little bit. So I'm gonna go under there and see how we're doing on the transmission fluid drain. Okay, so I need to I'll take my socket off of this so I can use this to tighten this up a little bit. Find my drain bolt and a rag. So it's just barely dripping, so we're gonna go ahead and put the drain bolt back in. So you always want to make sure you get your crush washer off with your drain bolt. Make sure it's not stuck to your car or you could have a leak. Okay, so what we're gonna do is just use this just to snug it up just a little. Okay. Well, right here, I'm gonna go ahead and remove this check bolt all the way. I don't even need that. I can use my hand. Still very hot, and okay, I got a little fluid out on my hand with that. Okay. Let's clean that up a little bit. This is how little that check bolt is. Takes a 12 millimeter socket to get on there, but this is a 10 millimeter crush washer. That's our bad one. We'll go ahead and put it with our other bad one. We'll grab our clean one. We'll go ahead and get it ready so we know it's ready to go. I'm just gonna set it right there. And then just a couple of quick notes. This is a 3/8" torque wrench. You don't have to use one of these. About the only thing that I really feel strongly about with a torque wrench on most of the jobs I do is the lug nuts on the wheels. You don't want to guess because it's such a safety concern. But on something like this, if you just wanted to snug it up with the 3/8" breaker bar, you didn't want to buy a 3/8" torque wrench, you'd be fine. But this is a Pittsburgh Harbor Freight special. Very inexpensive and perfect for jobs like this. 36 foot-pounds. So I loosen this bolt at the bottom, and each mark represents, you can see the can't see it much on video, but it has numbers going up the side, and that's gonna be foot-pounds. And so I want to go to 36, which means that I'm gonna rotate the 0 until it hits the 35 mark. Be nice if they made them like a different color so you could see it in different lights, different lighting. Okay. So, maybe hard to see, but this right over here, this number says 35. It's got a line that comes down to that 0, which means I'm at 35. I want to be at 36, so I'm going to rotate it till the 1 is lined up with the middle, with this middle line. My 1 is lined up, so that means I'm at 36 foot-pounds. So I'm going to tighten this just by hand, and I'm going to make sure it's a socket. I want to make sure it's set to tighten. I'm going to get up there and I'm going to go till I hear a click, and then we're done with the drain bolt. Alright, so I've got this. Got to try to find on these breaker bars where you just have the 3/8" square, you don't have very many options to get it on there. Okay, that's it. So, doesn't take much here at 36. And then while we've got the torque wrench out, the setting for this crush washer was 15 foot-pounds. Not positive I'm going to use this on there. May not be able to get it in there. But just in case, since I've already got it out, I might as well use it. Okay, so I've got that set to 15 foot-pounds for when we get to that one. Oh yeah, I do need my drain under there. I gotta watch out for when I fill it. I have to watch out for it to leak out to let me know that it's full. So I need to look for my check bolt and make sure that my drain pan is under it, so that when we have enough transmission fluid in there, it's gonna start leaking out. So that's where it's helpful if you have a helper like I do, my beautiful videographer. My wife, she can help me watch under here while I'm pouring a bottle in up there and tell me when it starts to drip. Okay, let's come back up here. We can tell our oil is done. That's drained out very nicely. Clean this job up. Put our cap back on. Okay, so we drained the oil and we changed the oil filter. Got everything done. me see the phone there. Okay, so coming up to the engine bay, your automatic transmission fluid, CVT, continuously variable transmission. So see that white full plug right there? So you reach my hand down in there. It's got a little metal 90-degree bar on it. You just pull it out. It doesn't rotate or anything, just pull on it. Just pull on that metal piece right there. That's where it was. So we're gonna set this aside. See, it says right on there, Honda HCF-2. That's how you know you're in the right place. All this stuff, Honda HCF-2. Do not go to your auto parts store and buy some cheaper transmission fluid. It is not worth it. This is special. It's manufactured, made by Honda for their stuff. It's about $15 a quart. Should take right around 5 quarts for all-wheel drive, like I have, a little less. Might get away with 4 quarts if you don't have all-wheel drive, but you could probably always take a quart back. So you could either buy 4 and take your chances if you don't have all-wheel drive, or you could buy 5 and just don't open one and take it back if you don't need it. That's better than making another trip while you're in the middle of a job. So let me just show them here. I got it right down in there. These funnels are great. They're made for automatic transmission fluid because they're usually on down in there like that. So we'll just add our fluid in the funnel. And so what we're gonna do here, and we're always gonna check as we go and make sure that we're not spilling. We're gonna use the one first that I had left over from 30,000 miles ago. It barely has anything in it, but we're not gonna waste it. Okay, remember we have our drain bolt in place, so it's not going to leak out the bottom. We have our check bolt out, meaning that when the level gets high enough, it's going to start leaking. That lets us know that we need to start the car. So we're going to put in probably 3.5 quarts before we even slow down. So I'm keeping my headlamp on that where the funnel's going in, just to make sure. I don't want this stuff on my driveway. I don't want to deal with the spill for many, many reasons. Okay. So we had that little partial quart that was almost nothing. And then that was our first one. So it's this bottle, not really counting the first one as a bottle, so we don't get confused. So we have 1 full bottle in, 1 quart. This is quart number 2. We don't need to keep an exact count because remember, we're going to be letting the car kind of determine when it's ready based on how we do this automatic transmission fluid. There's 2 full quarts in there now. So $15 a quart may sound expensive, but when you figure for 75 bucks you can get 5 quarts, and that'll keep your $30,000 car going for 30,000 miles. That's a pretty good deal. This is the 3rd quart. Knowing it takes about 5 quarts, I'm still not going to watch it on the 4th quart. Just going to pour it in. So this is our 4th full quart. Okay. Now I'm gonna get my wife a flashlight. Okay, so I'm gonna be pouring this 5th quart in. I'm gonna make sure my funnel is still where it's supposed to be. Yep, still going in. My wife's watching with a flashlight to see when it starts to spill out. It should be any moment, so I'm not gonna let the funnel fill up with this 5th quart. Gonna go kind of slow. Still nothing?
Mm-mm.
You got it?
Yep.
Okay. So she got some, so we're stopping. So now what we'll do is we will take our check bolt, and remember it's got a new crush washer. We're going to end up torquing it down to 15 foot-pounds, but that's not right now. Right now we're going to not even use a wrench. We're going to use our hands, and we're going to put that check bolt in just barely hand tight. And then once I do that, I'll come back up here, I'll remove my funnel, and I'll put that in, and then we'll guide you through the next steps. So check bolt back in by hand, remove the funnel, put that back in. That's what we're doing right now. Okay. So I got my check bolt. I need a rag. Can you hand me one of those rags up there? There's 2 of them. So it's gonna be like a slow drip. So you're just gonna have to kind of be prepared with the rag to kind of not worry too much about cleaning up at this point. We'll have an opportunity to do that at the end because we're gonna make a mess in the same place. So it does not make sense to clean it up right now. Just putting the chuck bolt in with my hand. Okay. Definitely want gloves on for this because the liquid is hot still, even though the car's been off for quite some time. Also need this rag for when I lift my funnel out. Actually, I just loop it up, that's quicker. So I'm gonna set this aside for a moment. I'm gonna be using it again, so I definitely don't wanna waste time cleaning up right now. I'm gonna put this back in. This is not the easiest to get your hand in there and see where it's at, because once you put your hand in, you can't see anymore. So, and then with the car jacked up, it just makes it harder. Okay, this is very important. We're getting ready to start the car, so we want to clean up our workspace even though the job's not done. So I'm going to remove my transmission fluid bottle. I put the cap back on so I don't spill it. Get all my rags out of the engine bay. Give it a quick look, make sure all my oil tools are gone. My cap's back on from my oil change. My transmission fluid cap is back on. And I don't have anything under the car that's gonna matter if I start it right now. So I'm gonna get in the car. And this is important for how we get our fluid level accurate. So foot on the brake and keep it on the brake and start the car. Okay. I'm gonna take my transmission, foot still on the brake, and will be the whole time. I'm gonna go into reverse. I'm gonna say 1001, 1002, 1003. Then I'm gonna go into neutral. And then I'm gonna count to 3 then. And then I'm gonna go into drive. I'm gonna count to 3. Now I'm gonna go into sport. I don't know if it matters with sport and low, but gives the car a little bit more time to move this transmission fluid around. So I don't know that sport and low are necessary, but I just go ahead and do them. Gives it a little bit more run time. I just go 3 seconds per gear, foot on the brake the whole time, work my way back up to park. And what that does, I'm gonna shut it off. So by moving it through the gears, it moves the fluid around. So now what we're going to do is we're going to remove our check bolt at the bottom. We're going to remove our plug up here and grab our funnel again. And we're gonna add one more time until it starts to drip. Then we'll put our check bolt on and we will be done with this job. So we're gonna go ahead and do that right now. So even though I did it by hand, it's possible I might need a socket to get it off, so I'll go in prepared. Okay, I was able to get it by hand. I want to make sure I get my nice new washer back, so I don't want to let it stick on there and then fall off in my pan and lose it. So I've got my bolt ready to go in just a minute. So we got that. We're going to want to move our drain pan back under so we can catch everything. Get my funnel back on there. Ooh, my funnel was coming disconnected right here. That would have been a mess. Check your connections, every one of them. Okay, so just feed the funnel back through there. Now for the fun part. This won't take very much. All right, so I'll film from the top so my wife can look with the light. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
All right, we're gonna slowly add You see how much fluid we get in by going through that step of going through the gears. Kind of works the fluid around. No drip?
No.
And go really slow because really shouldn't be much more. Okay, starting to drip. So yeah, if you need all-wheel drive, if you have all-wheel drive, you're gonna need every bit of 5 quarts. Now we're gonna do the same thing where we clean up top here. I'll go ahead and let that funnel drip while I do the bottom first. Let that funnel drip out more. I'm gonna grab my check bolt. Wow, it's still dripping. Okay, same thing where I'm just gonna have to kind of put my hand in it and let it get kind of nasty while I get the check bolt started. So you're gonna get some on your hand. Okay, so we got it hand tightened. It's gonna stop the dripping. So I kind of clean up in here a little bit. is get this socket on my 3-inch torque wrench. See if I can get it in there. Again, using it 15 foot-pounds. You don't have a torque wrench or don't want to use a torque wrench, just don't over tighten, but snug it up real nice. Give it, you know, a little bit of a, okay. 15 foot-pounds isn't much. So it is done down here. Now all we got to do is just gonna lift our funnel out. Take our plug, put it down in there. All right, so we got the plug put back in on top. So our oil change is done, our transmission fluid change is done, our engine air filter is done, our compartment air filter is done. We have all of our tires loosened. So now all we have to do is complete our tire rotation, where we'll take off all of our lug nuts. We'll put the front tires to the back on the same side, and then we'll crisscross the back tire from one side to the front tire of another. So I won't video that. I'll finish that up in the dark here in the next few minutes. And that's our 90,000 mile service. Thank you for watching.